Hi again, John Stott. This is from his commentary, The Spirit, the Church, and the World, commentary on the book of Acts. John Stott on Paul before Herod Agrippa and his wife Bernice. Paul tells his personal story, drawing attention to its three principal phases. He portrays himself, 1, as the strict Pharisee, 2, as the fanatical persecutor, and 3, as the commissioned apostle. First, the apostle describes his upbringing as a Pharisee. The Jews all know the way I have lived ever since I was a child, from the beginning of my life in my own country, and also in Jerusalem. They have known me for a long time and can testify, if they are willing, that according to the strictest sect of our religion, I lived as a Pharisee. And now it is because of my hope in what God has promised our fathers that I am on trial today. This is the promise our 12 tribes are hoping to see fulfilled as they earnestly serve God day and night. O King, it is because of this hope that the Jews are accusing me. Why should any of you consider it incredible that God raises the dead? Saul must have been a familiar figure in Jerusalem when, as a young man, he sat at the feet of Rabbi Gamaliel. He is likely to have gained a reputation for scholarship, righteousness, and religious zeal. Many Palestinian Jews still alive knew how he had lived as a child, first in Tarsus and then in Jerusalem. More than that, they had known him personally and could testify from their own experience that he belonged to the strictest party in Judaism, that of the Pharisees. It was surely anomalous, therefore, that he should now be on trial for his hope in God's promise to the fathers, which he and they shared, namely that God would send his Messiah, foretold and foreshadowed in the Old Testament, to rescue and redeem his people. The 12 tribes were still eagerly expecting the fulfillment of this promise. But he believed it had already been fulfilled in Jesus, whose resurrection was the proof of his messiahship and the pledge of our resurrection too. Why should anyone think resurrection to be incredible? The Pharisees believed in it, and now God had demonstrated it by raising Jesus from the dead. Secondly, Paul describes his fanatical persecution of Christ. I too was convinced that I ought to do all that was possible to oppose the name of Jesus of Nazareth, and that is just what I did in Jerusalem. On the authority of the chief priests, I put many of the saints in prison, and when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. Many a time I went from one synagogue to another to have them punished, and I tried to force them to blaspheme. In my obsession against them, I even went to foreign cities to persecute them. Saul the Pharisee was convinced that it was his solemn duty to oppose the name and the claims of Jesus of Nazareth as those of an impostor. Moreover, he had the courage of his convictions. He began his persecuting program in Jerusalem. Armed with authority from the chief priests, he not only imprisoned many disciples of Jesus, but even when they were sentenced to death, cast his vote against them. He searched the synagogues for Christians in order to bring them to punishment. The synagogue punishment of whipping will be meant here. He tried by force to make them blaspheme. The phrase indicates that he by no means always succeeded. And in his obsession, that is, as the RSV calls it, his raging fury, he pursued them even to foreign cities. Thirdly, Paul describes his conversion and his commissioning as an apostle. On one of these journeys, I was going to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. About noon, O king, as I was on the road, I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, blazing around me and my companions. We all fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, in Aramaic, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. Then I asked, Who are you, Lord? I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, the Lord replied. Now get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you to appoint you as a servant and as a witness of what you have seen of me and what I will show you. I will rescue you from your own people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes, and turn them from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me. Damascus was one of the foreign cities to which Paul traveled, equipped with a high priestly extradition order. But before he reached his destination, the divine intervention took place. A heavenly light, more brilliant than the sun at noon, flashed around him and his companions. Together they fell to the ground. Then a voice, addressing Paul in Aramaic, asked why he was persecuting him, and, quoting a well-known proverb, declared it painful for him to kick against the goads. Dr. Richard Longenecker gives the references in the works of Euripides, Aeschylus, Pindar, and Terence, where this saying occurs as a metaphor for useless opposition to deity. So even Christ is quoting from the Greek and Roman poets. To the anonymous voice's question, "Why are you persecuting me?" Saul responded with the counter-question, "Who are you that I am persecuting?" Although his addition, Lord, does not necessarily mean more than Sir, yet the fact that Paul introduces Jesus' reply with the words, "the Lord replied," so that Kyrie and Kyrios stand together in Luke's text, suggests that it did mean more. Surely when the heavenly voice declared, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," at least two truths must have registered instantly in Saul's consciousness. The first is that the crucified Jesus was alive and had thus been vindicated. And the second, that the Jesus who identified himself so closely with the Christians that to persecute them was to persecute him, must regard them as being peculiarly his own people. I'm going to put in a link to a video we did on Acts chapter 2, the 7 characteristics of that earliest Christian church in Jerusalem, the big surprise of which is they went right on being Jews in their practice, including apparently both synagogue attendance, as indicated here in Saul's testimony, but also in temple worship. 7 characteristics of the Christian church. See you soon.